So the SJWs are at it again, this time at ABC News, of course, on MLK Day. And no, I'm not anti-MLK. Just need to put that out there. Because I know a lot of you look at the icon for the channel here, my logo. You see the American flag, the Union flag. You see part of the Confederate battle flag. You see the rattlesnake, the phrase, "Don't tread on me." Well, this channel is all about preserving great art, music, history, culture. We might have a tinge of politics, talk about current events. That's what my logo is about. It's not about white supremacy. Just need to make that clear. So the title of this article here at ABC News, which again came out today, Confederate monuments spark debate about how cities remember their history. Now in this article, they focus on Stone Mountain, say that Stone Mountain is racist, compare it to Mount Rushmore, and say that Stone Mountain is larger than Mount Rushmore. Was that really true? We'll find out here in a moment. But it turns out that the same person who sculpted Stone Mountain also sculpted Mount Rushmore. Gutzon Borglum, who was the son of Danish immigrants, and his son Lincoln helped him sculpt Mount Rushmore. Now, they're saying in this article that there are 2,000 such Confederate monuments throughout the country currently. Actually, we're not a country, we're a confederation of states. We always have been, as I've mentioned before, a union of free and independent states. That's what we're supposed to be. They're saying that these all have ties to white supremacy. Well, it turns out that the person who spearheaded the project for this Confederate monument at Stone Mountain was a woman, C. Helen Plain. Now, yes, she was a member of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. But Gutzon Borglum supported the Klan. Now, there's some dispute about whether or not he was a Klan member, but he did support the Klan. He attended their meetings. But George Washington was a slave owner, wasn't he? So what is he doing on Mount Rushmore? If the Confederate monument in Georgia, in Stone Mountain, if that is racist, it's all about white supremacy, then why is George Washington on the Mount Rushmore monument? When George Washington was a slave owner, he was our first commander-in-chief. Can we just say that all of them were slave owners back then? Actually, the wealthiest slave owner in the South was, I believe, Stephen Duncan. He owned like 15 plantations. He had 2,000 slaves, but he was a Southern Unionist. He did not believe in secession, and he later moved to New York. Well, how can that be? I thought this was all about white supremacy and preserving the South, but the largest slave owner, plantation owner in the South at the time, lived from 1787 to 1867, owned 2,000 slaves, and was a staunch Unionist, just like John C. Calhoun. John C. Calhoun believed in states' rights, but he was a staunch Unionist. Now, he believed in secession, but Stephen Duncan, who was a plantation owner, didn't. Go figure that one out. So let's get into these actual measurements of Stone Mountain versus Mount Rushmore. So Stone Mountain is 300 feet wide by 190 feet high, but the actual carving is 160 feet by 76 feet. So 160 feet wide, 76 feet high. And only 21% of the monument is made up of the men and horses. The rest of the area is this rough area, background, and it's embedded 42 feet into the mountain itself. The head of Robert E. Lee is about 24 feet high, but the head of Washington on Mount Rushmore is 60 feet high. Now, the mountain itself is 825 feet high, but Mount Rushmore is 5,725 feet above sea level. So technically, Mount Rushmore, ABC News, is really the larger monument, not Stone Mountain. Now, a little side here. So C. Helen Plain spearheaded this project. There had been talk about it for years, I think in a Southern paper, going back to like 1869 after the Civil War. But this was spearheaded by C. Helen Plain, who was a charter member of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. And she reached out to sculptor Gutzon Borglum. But she would not shake his hand. Even though he supported the Klan, she would not shake his hand because he was a Yankee. True story. Just to go to show you the cultural differences in the United States at the time. And all these monuments, by the way, were being built in what was known as the sculpture race. How many people have heard of that? From 1865 to about 1915 or so, maybe 1920, you had what they called the sculpture race. So you had the Eiffel Tower being built in Paris. You had the Statue of Liberty that was sent to us from France, from Paris. You have these monuments being built in the south, monuments being built in the north. It was all part of the sculpture race because we wanted to compete with Europe. Remember, we were a new republic. We were only 100 some odd years old. So we had to, show up our European neighbors, people across the pond. That's what we had to do. That's what we did. Go check that out. There's a very interesting book about that. I believe it's called The Sculpture Race, 1865 to 1920, somewhere around there. So how do you like that? So C. Hanlon Plain, charter member of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, reaches out to this sculptor, Gutzon Borglum, son of Danish immigrants, who supported the Klan. Don't know if he was a Klan member or not. Went to their meetings, but she would not shake his hand because he was a Yankee. ABC News, why didn't you investigate this? Why didn't you investigate this? So if you're going to put an article out there about this, ABC News, about Stone Mountain, how racist it is, do your research. Should I call this video journalists behaving badly? But see, we got to paint the picture that the South is a boogeyman, right? But I love being American, absolutely love being American. I have a Betsy Ross flag, a Confederate battle flag. I also have a Bonnie Blue flag. But I can name numerous abuses that happened under the Union. Being somebody of German heritage, I know that Germans alongside the Japanese and Italians were interned during World War II. Being part Native American, I know that Native American tribes were displaced under the Union. We know what happened to the Chinese in California. So why not any call for California to take down its state flag? You got to take out anything that represents California, anything that represents the Union because of the treatment of Native Americans, because places like Boston were major slave auction hubs. George Washington was a slave owner, even though he was our commander-in-chief, first president. I mean, where does it end, folks? Where does it end? History is what it is. It's not perfect. Never has been. No nation on this planet is perfect. And never has been. So I thought I'd share this with you. Go check out this article at ABC News. But I had to point out the hypocrisy. Because if you're going to take one down, take it all down. Because apparently it's all racist. Whether they're talking about George Washington or the South in 1860, 1861. Why is anybody calling for Africa to remove all its symbols because of its history of slavery, involvement in the slave trade, both the Atlantic and Trans-Saharan slave trade? This is well known, well documented. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. You can also follow me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, because I write music in my spare time, or you can find me at X, Culture Confederacy, at Culture Confed1 on X. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out. Stay safe, everybody. God bless this thing called the United States. And you know how we do it here. This is where the past crashes with the present. I'll catch you next time, and you all have a great Monday.